for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. People done gone crazy. People done gone mad. People done forgot the superpowers we all have. We were born to love, not hate. We can decide our fate and look for the good in everyone and celebrate all our mistakes if there's a silver lining. You still have to find it, find it, find it. Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone.
Yes, let's look for the good. I am so thoroughly excited that we are celebrating Joy Day 2020 today. And I'm even more so excited that you chose to be here with me today. I don't know if you know, but this is actually our second annual Joy Day. And the purpose of Joy Day is really to uplift the people around us, knowing that it will uplift us, ourselves as well. So last year, we made it all about smiles. We realized that when we smile at another person, somehow their mouth, the muscles in their mouth start twitching as well, and they start smiling too. And we realized this could be literally like a butterfly effect that you could pass on to who knows how long. This year, however, it's all about uplifting others with our words. And that's why I'm so excited and why I'm so thrilled about sharing also the music of Jason Mraz with you. If you're looking to get uplifted, I would highly recommend you check out his latest album, Look for the Good, that came out in June, because he literally offers up a recipe on how we can live a more joyful life. You know, I don't want to like brush everything off that just happened, because things they have been hard. It absolutely has been hard. And it has hit me in a very, very hard way too, this last 6 to 8 months. COVID has just changed everything. And then racial injustice, it continues to be in our communities. And now we have an election where, interesting election, don't you think? But it just adds to our burden of what we all have to deal with. But we can make it easy for ourselves. We can make it easier for sure when we look for the good. And that's really what we're hoping to do today. There's a lot you can do, and we'll talk about all of that in a moment. But right away, I would love to actually ask you a few questions. I'm going to put up a poll. Here we go. Launch my poll, yes. And so you'll see the first question I would love to answer for you is, what do you hope to get out of today's event? Do you just need to get a break to get away from work? Totally cool. No worries. I'm looking for ideas on how to create more joy in my life. I hope to get inspired today by the guest speakers. Or is it all of the above? And then there is a second poll that says, how easy or difficult do you find it to feel joyful on an average day? Easy, very super easy, somewhat difficult, or very difficult. It's so fun to watch this actually from this side as the numbers keep flying back and forth. I give you another 5 seconds to do that. And drum rolls, here are the results. Share results. So you're here for all of the above. For most of you, many of you are looking to have more ideas on how to become more joyful in your life. And for you, most of you feel like that it's somewhat easy to create joy in your life. I feel like I have my tribe here. That's awesome. So my goal really with today is to give you all of the things that we just asked you in the poll. We're looking to inspire you. And key for this is really I'm looking to inspire you so that you feel inspired to inspire others to spread more joy. Because did you know that joy is contagious? Yes, according to a study by the British Medical Journal, Joy is Contagious. They followed 5,000 people over 20 years and have found that happiness can spread through 3 degrees of separation within your social network. What that means is that the happiness of your friend's friend, and even your friend's friend can impact your mood. Crazy, right? This is the perfect, by the way, sidestep and transition to talk to you and tell you all about our Joy Day t-shirts. So the Joyvial Rays, which those are our loving name for our Joyvial team members, we call them Rays, have created some awesome t-shirts, and I'm wearing one of them here right now. Joy is contagious too. We think that in a year of COVID and pandemic, we want to point out there are also other things to get excited about. Here's another t-shirt, and these 2 t-shirts are, by the way, out of 6. A limited edition, and so you will have a little stamp on the back. They will only be available, I feel like a salesperson right now, until the end of October, but all the other t-shirts will remain up. In case you want to learn more, here is the link so you can check them out. But the really exciting part is that we are planning on giving away 3 t-shirts before we're done here today. We have selected people at random. You must, however, be present still at the end, or at least when we give the t-shirts away, which will be just around 1 o'clock. Wonderful. Okay, well, the setup for today is pretty easy. I'm honored to be interviewing some amazing guests here today, 4 amazing guests that will show you why and how you can bring more joy into your life. Then at around just 1 o'clock, I ask some of our Joyvial health coaches to join us to answer your questions. So with that said, you will find that there is a Q&A section on the bottom of your screen, and there's a chat. So admittedly, I'm not going to have a chance to look at chat, but if you have any questions that you want the health coaches to answer for you in those last 15 minutes, please write them right in there. Okay. So I'm excited. I want to introduce our first guest, and I'm not sure she has arrived. So I'm going to quickly just check in the attendee list. She's here. Well, our second guest is here, and we're going to roll with it. Karen, would you mind already stepping ahead in our interview process? And
hey,
awesome. Nothing like rolling with the punches, right?
I mean, I'm glad I was on time. That's awesome.
I know, me too. So wonderful. So for everyone who may not necessarily know Karen, which I suspect there are very few here, so Karen is the vice president of the Atlanta Tech Village, the 4th largest tech hub here in Atlanta. And the beautiful thing is actually that, Karen, you have a number of awards attached to your name. The one that I thought that makes so perfect sense to mention here today, that you were Salesforce's 10 small business women who inspire. And so that, I think, just gives you all the cred to be here today. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. I mean, what kind of better event to be? We all need a little bit more joy, a little bit more light. So I was like, heck yes, I'm there. This is great.
Awesome. But it's interesting because I think the other thing that I noticed in our interview process when I prepared for it is that you actually also considered one of 39 women within Atlanta to follow their social media. And so I did. I actually this summer looked at your social media, and there was a post that you made earlier this year around you being in the pool with your daughter, and it started pouring rain. And when I read that post, I literally felt what a great way to look for joy. And I would love for you to share that pool experience with everybody who's watching and listening in today.
Sure. Yeah. So I have a 4-year-old daughter, and we've spent a lot of time at the pool this summer because, you know, COVID, what do you do? And all that to say is the picture that she's talking about that I posted is a picture of me holding my daughter Haven, and behind us you see this beautiful rainbow like arching over our heads. It was like this spectacular. My husband took it, and I was like, I want to share this with the world. Like, this is such a beautiful moment. And the story behind it is that we were at the pool, right? And it's a heavy season. It is such a heavy season for all of us for many, many different reasons. And of course, it's like this beautiful day, and all of a sudden, it's literally starts pouring down rain. So like all of a sudden, it just, you see the gray clouds. I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. Pours down rain. So the people who are at the pool, everybody makes a run for it. People start leaving the gate, getting in their cars and doing all of this. And we do the same. We get out and we're like hiding under an umbrella, and it's like pelting the like huge, almost painful like raindrops. And I'm like, and the wind's blowing, and we're hiding there, and everyone's leaving. And then it's like, I just took a moment of like, do we leave? Like, why am I going to let this deter us? Because the reality was there was not lightning. There was not thunder. It was a summer day. It was not cold. And I literally look at my daughter, Haven, and I was like, Haven, I think we should go swimming in the rain. And she was like, what, mommy? Like, no. And I was like, oh no, what am I teaching her? That's not fun. So I took her hand and we literally ran into the pool, and we swam in the rain, and it was crazy and fun, and we were laughing. And when we took that choice, a few other people jumped into the pool with us, and literally 5 minutes later, we were all laughing and going, and then the cloud, like the rain just stopped as suddenly as it came, and this beautiful rainbow came out. And when I shared it, I was like, let me share this story, because it could have been about the rain, and it could have been about a moment that we missed. But I think that shift in perspective, for whatever reason, it hit me in that moment. I'm so glad that I took a little bit of a more uncomfortable route, because it was this quintessential summer moment. And for me, it stood for hope. And I still believe that humans can be the greatest force for good in the world. And if you can believe that, then it gives you hope. And that rainbow over our heads was just perfect. And I'm like, there's still good in the world. We can be a force for good. And I felt like it was just a sign of hope amidst all the hardship and rain and storms, and just a promise for a better future. So it could also just be a really cool photo. So that was me reading a lot into it, but that's the story behind it.
Well, I think that's the whole point, though. It's the perspective that you take. So if you're watching, I mean, you could be sitting on the sideline of the pool. Like I had this summer an experience too, where it was pouring down while in the botanical gardens, 20 minutes into it, and it was pouring down. And my voice in the head was saying, run for shelter. But you can choose to really make this a moment that you have in your memory, likely for the rest of your life. So I really appreciate that perspective on perspective, Karen. I really do. So let me ask you, what tools do you have in your toolbox that you kind of can pull out to feel more joyful?
As for tools in my toolbox, there's a few different ones. To ensure we have that perspective, one of the things that we do with our daughter Haven that we started a while ago is every night, like we do our prayers, and then when she's going to bed, we like read a book, we do our prayers, and then I say, what are you grateful for? And both mommy and daddy and our daughter, we just have one child, and we all list what we're grateful for. And it's so fun to do, especially with her, because she's like, I'm grateful for my toothbrush and my bunny and like Santa. But sometimes, you know, she's like, I'm really grateful mommy gave me a hug today. And then my husband and I do it too. And it's like, sometimes it's nice to be like, I'm grateful for dinner. We had a wonderful, like, we had food and we're not hungry and we have a bed and like, I love this warm blanket. So, I mean, sometimes they're ridiculous and sometimes they're meaningful and sometimes they're big and little, but I think it takes a moment to just come together to kind of name those. And I think for me, my faith is a huge part of kind of my hope. So for my toolkit, ideally, whatever you believe and kind of wherever you're coming from, if you are a person of faith, it should bring you hope and joy. And if it doesn't, I invite you to reevaluate. And it's just for me, like that bigger purpose, and just even, you know, as a Christian, I'm a Christian. And so for me, like even this deconstruction of faith sometimes to be like, all right, especially in this world, like, what do I believe and why do I believe it? And why do I think the way I do? Even through those kind of difficult things that I've had going in my head, which I think has been healthy, there's ultimately this greater purpose. There is a greater hope. And I know I keep talking about hope, but for me, my joy comes from hope for something greater and something bigger than myself, and like purpose and meaning, and even things that seem meaningless. So yeah, it's a weird thing to think about. You can choose joy, right? So it's like, sometimes I think you get in the thing where it's like, oh, I have no control over lots of things in the world. Most things we have no control over, whether it's our health, you know, other unjust things happening in the world. But it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, joy doesn't have to be attached to my circumstances. It doesn't have to be attached to my environment, because no matter how much of like a shit show it is, if I can say that, there's
please, yes.
Right? It's like, okay, no, but what are these things that I can find that I'm grateful for? Are those gifts? And then how am I sharing those with other people despite the circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, we could literally have an hour conversation around so many of these things. I think the one part that right away struck me also when you talked about your daughter, and sometimes for her it's something, you know, small and silly, like, you know, Santa and the hug. But I think we can all actually learn from kids. You know, there is such innocence about how easily we can create joy, and also in a way that, you know, when a kid is upset, I mean, like typically, for the most part, from what I understand as a non-parent, it takes a minute for them to cry it out, scream it out, and the next moment they're just in a good place again. And even there we can learn from that, just for us to truly actually not swallow our emotions, but to move away, feel our emotions, even if that's frustration, and then come back more joyful, because it really does work. So Karen, it's amazing how quickly 10 minutes pass. I'm really, really grateful that you joined, and I would love for you to stick around, obviously, as we interview other guests. But I'm so grateful. I think already we could end the meeting right now, and everybody would already have some really good ideas. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining us.
Absolutely. And I'll just leave everybody with like the idea of, which you may be touching on, but like a random act of kindness. So like anything that you can do, like we all have opportunities to create joy. So whether it's, I've literally, and like, I don't even have to feel it and feel good in the moment to do it. And then I always feel good after. So whether it's like dropping a bottle of wine off at a girlfriend's house, whether it's that random text to like my team and my work life where I'm saying, hey, I saw you did this and I appreciate you. Whatever those little moments are, like creating joy for other people will also create it for yourself, and it allows you to get out of your head a bit more. So definitely think about how you can challenge yourself to kind of do that for neighbors and people you know, and maybe people you don't know.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, well, we'll talk more about it for sure. All right, Karen, I appreciate it. Now, so for you, the question you might be asking is, why do you want to make joy even a priority in your life? And well, the obvious answer is, well, I want to feel happier. But I can give you a bunch more reasons as to why you actually want to experience more joy. For one, research shows that joyful people are healthier, less of a chance of a heart attack. Your blood pressure is a lot healthier. You can even manage your weight a lot easier. And I think an important part is you have a decreased level of stress just by laughing more. And now get this. Feeling joy also makes you look and feel younger. Yeah. Happier people actually age less. Their skin tends to be more resilient and repairs itself much more easily. I mean, isn't that cool? All right, so I'm going to launch one other poll here. Let's see, here we go. Launched a poll. The question is, when you feel down, do you have go-to tools or techniques that help you feel more joyful? The answers are flying in, wonderful. Okay, I'll give you here another 5 seconds to make this yes or no decision. Wonderful. Okay, so what we're finding is, share results, that about 83% of you say yes and 17 of you say no. Not everybody had a chance to chime in, but that's all right. So obviously the goal is today to give you tools as well. And I'm grateful that you already have tools. The key is that you also do make sure that you use those tools. Okay, so one of them, I don't even have to talk a whole lot further about it because Karen really just drove it home, the importance of giving your time and talents. You might think that, how can that bring you joy? But literally you're getting a dopamine hit in your brain. And I want to share a text message. A daughter had been inspired by Joy Day to tell her mom about how she felt about her. And so she says, just texted my mom, thank you for the reminder. And mom responds, and the daughter says, y'all, how powerful is this? This was my mom's answer. You just made me cry, honey. It's funny, I've been feeling a little down about things lately, like who I am, or I don't know. I can't describe it, but I want to be a better person, and I try. It's important to me to keep trying. I just hope all of you kids know how much I love you. And it means so much to me that for you to tell me what you just said. It's like you sensed I needed to hear that. Thank you. I love you, honey. I don't know how many times I've read this, and every time I get goosebumps because this is one daughter talking to her mom, and 3 people got happy. I got happy because I shared it with them and encouraged them. The daughter is happy and mom is happy. So the amount of people that you can create joy for is absolutely amazing through that. All right, so I encourage you continuously to ask any questions that you might have that we can answer with our health coaches. But now I'm excited. I can see that Camye has joined us. Camye, Mackey, can you join us on camera?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you okay to start a video if I can do it for you?
Can you do it for me? Because it won't let me in.
Ah.
Let's see.
Start video. Interesting. Can somebody give me feedback if you can hear Camye when she talks? Can you see her or hear her? In the chat? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Well, I don't know why, Camye, we have a video challenge.
Yeah. Aw.
But you know what? I'm going to make you co-host here for a minute. The good thing is, when we talk about Joy Day here, anything that happens is okay because I kept saying from the start, it might not be perfect today, but it will be great. I don't know if that changed your ability to show your video.
No, it doesn't. Oh my gosh.
It's all right. All good. Well, we're going to roll with it. So I don't think, again, that Camye Mackey needs an introduction, but I wanted to share this with you. So Camye Mackey is the Executive Vice President and Chief People, Diversity, and Inclusion Officer for the Atlanta Hawks and Statefarm Arena. Under her leadership, the Hawks won the Most Effective Recruiting Strategy Award in the 2019 HR Excellence Awards presented by the Atlanta Business Chronicle. And maybe more personally, I would say, I had a chance to get to know Camye over the last year, and a woman with literally the biggest heart for her community, for her team members. And I'm so, so grateful, Camye, that you could make it here today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So the question that I wanted to pose to you first is I really also want to get real here. Times have been hard, and I would be intrigued just to hear from you what challenges are keeping you and your community, if this is now at work or at home, from feeling joyful.
You know, Hanni, I think you hit it. These are some challenging times. I mean, really challenging times. When I think about it from a career standpoint, working in human resources, diversity and inclusion for many, many, many years, I haven't quite experienced what I've experienced in 2020. And it's been difficult on a lot of different fronts. But when you think about what are some of those challenges, I think when COVID came, you know, health and safety, that was a really hard challenge that we're still navigating through. You know, and look at work. You're constantly thinking of what can we do, what else can we do for the safety and the well-being of our team members. And the health and safety, what I'm finding is it's not just, you know, your physical health and safety, but also your well-being, you know, the concern around the mental wellness and, you know, having this constant of uncertainty, what it's doing, you know, for each and every one. So from work, from our family, you know, I know Karen talks about her daughter, and, you know, I think about our families and just making sure that they're safe. Social justice and systemic racism is another one. It's a challenging time. This isn't something that's new, but it's ongoing, and it's heavy. It's really, really heavy, and it's tough for all of us, you know, for a lot of different ways or reasons. Another thing, Hanni, when I think about it, post-COVID, you know, we feel that we're in it right now, but what's going to happen when we come out of COVID? You know, I think about that. It keeps me up at night. What is the world going to look like? What are the new challenges, the new opportunities? What do we need to plan and prepare for? But those are just some of the things that just really, you know, keep me going and thinking during these times.
Yeah, what a perspective. And so first thing I would love for everyone to just check in with your body here for a second. Everything that Camye was mentioning is a reality. But you also may have realized that your body chemistry right now has a very different mood, has a different energy level just by being exposed to that. So by thinking about that. And it doesn't mean at all that we want to put our head into the sand and ignore it all, because we can't. We have to be part of many of these things and part of the solution. But also realize that we can take a space between being exposed to this. And what I'm really saying is, for example, I would very encourage our audience to stop limiting the news that you watch, because that's the kind of experience that you might feel internally. So Camye, I want to then come back, you know, like, so what do you think is the trick to remain and experience joy in the midst of it all?
Experiencing joy, and it's so funny. I mean, listening again to Karen, some of the same similar things. For me, my faith, oh my gosh, my faith is the core of who I am, and it's what keeps me grounded. It really does, and it keeps things in perspective. Because when you watch TV, you look at the things around you, before you know it, you get so worked up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like the world is coming to the end. It's so horrible. But when you sit down and regroup, you get back to your center and you look at, my gosh, I am so blessed, you know, so grateful for so many different things. And when you think of little tools and little techniques, things that we do, I do sometimes silly stuff. I mean, we'll have a dance party in the house, you know, where we're just, you know, turning the music up loud and dancing around and just acting silly. I mean, there are times when I'll just sit and I'm looking, I'm like, my God, I have all my fingers. I woke up this morning, you know, I have the ability to eat just basic things in life. I can eat, I can talk to my children, I can see their smiling faces, my colleagues, I can have a coffee Zoom call with them. So I try to, you know, change my mindset and just really focus on the positives and just be grateful and try to remain grounded. I know I learned a long time ago saying that nothing stays the same forever, and this too shall pass. So, you know, knowing that there is hope and, you know, things will change. And I think I too get, you know, that sense of joy and hope again from doing for others. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the drive-thru at Starbucks, and when it came time for me to pay for my coffee and snacks, what have you, you know, the lady, the barista, she says, "Oh, the person behind or in front of you, she already paid for you." And I was like, "Oh, how sweet." Well, here's my card. I'm gonna pay for the person behind. But it's those little acts of kindness. I mean, this holds true, you know, through and through. So that's what has helped me.
I love it. I love it. I actually will come back on your gratitude in a moment. What I would love to, if you could share just what brings you the most joy. And I think, like, as we're sharing some of these ideas right now, is one of the things that I also would love to understand is, how do you make sure that you make time for them in the midst of your such a busy schedule that you have?
With time, what I've learned is we all have the same amount of time in the day. It's how we prioritize, and it's being intentional. It's waking up a few minutes earlier. It might be 15 minutes earlier in the morning. Take time to just, you know, to think about the things you're grateful for, to jot those things down in a journal, to reflect back. And one of those things is to reflect back on times that were challenging before, and to remember how you came through them and you came out on the bright side. So just that reflection and thinking, you know, from that side. For me too, you know, what brings me joy, it's the simple things. It's looking at my children, listening to my children, looking at little babies, looking at senior citizens holding hands, walking, you know, in the park. Just those little things that just touch your heart in little special ways. Looking outside, the trees. I am so amazed, and I know it happens every year at the same time, but I am so amazed when fall turns and the leaves change. I can just sit and just look and enjoy nature from that standpoint. So I think it's looking internal and not allowing the outside to influence and change who you are, but digging deep on the inside, but taking time for that. And we all can do that. It may be 5 minutes, it may be 10 at the beginning of your day, at the end of the day, in between calls, you know, when you're busy meetings. But it's important that we find time for us and to reflect on what we are most grateful for.
I love it, because every example that you just brought, you know, just the baby and the old couple, which I think we all agree with you. We're like, oh, this is awesome. But I think it's the childlike spirit that we get excited about everything. If you think about kids, you know, when they're toddlers still, they're like, mommy, 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 and like everything is exciting in their world. And I think for us to get that excitement back is just beautiful. And I encourage everyone to do that. Camye, again, 10 minutes fly by so super fast. Thank you so very much for being here, for sharing your ideas. I'm so grateful, and you know, encourage you to hang around for more information for the next 30 minutes and 45 minutes as we talk more. So thank you so much, Camye.
Thank you so much, Hanni, and thank you so much for presenting this today. This is so impactful, and it means a lot to, you're touching so many lives, whether you realize it or not. So thank you.
And the beauty is, it just adds happiness to my life. So it's really a gift that keeps on giving. I do want to talk a little bit about why gratitude, that has been now mentioned by both Karen and Camye, is so powerful, and why a daily gratitude practice is so powerful. And the reason for that is that our brain wiring in our, well, the wiring in our brain follows certain pathways. The best way that I can describe it actually is, if it rains really heavily outside, you find that the rain tends to find the same runoff in your gardens, right? The same grooves to run off. For you to divert that rain into a different direction, you literally have to grab a shovel and start digging a trench to go somewhere else. And that's the same thing in your brain. If you have been used to thinking negative thoughts for a while, your brain connections that exist get thicker and thicker and thicker. And so it becomes at some point actually really hard for the brain, that if you're trying to think positive, to not go down that usual highway that your brain used to use. New brain connections are built super fast, within seconds, honestly. But the trick is that they also separate if they're not used within 24 hours. So your goal with that gratitude practice is for you to think more positive as often as you can, so that those brain wiring is thicker and thicker and thicker, and the other highway starts loosening its potency. And so, as everybody mentioned, gratitude practice is important. I would encourage you that as you go to sleep, that you already think about, as you're falling asleep, what gets you excited the next day. It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be the "I love you, Mom" from your daughter on your way out. It could be you going through a walk in the woods. What is it? And then if you wake up in the morning and you're not quite feeling ready to get out of bed, immediately think of the things that get you excited. Start your day with positive thoughts, and then add on 2 minutes of feel gratitude for the things that exist. You really want to feel those. So I hope that's helpful. We're about to move now to our next guest, and that is Jeff Hilimire. Jeff, are you able to maneuver your camera? It allows you. Awesome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. I literally woke up this morning already with a pep in my step, and I was so excited about today. How are you?
I'm great, and I've been enjoying this so much. I'm thrilled that you put this on. Great speakers.
I'm so glad to have all of you. So for everybody else, Jeff Hilimire is the author of 2 books, The 5-Day Turnaround and The Crisis Turnaround. I personally read The Crisis Turnaround. It's an awesome book. If you're a leader of any size company that you have to lead through, I highly encourage you to get it. He is also the CEO of Dragon Army, the founder of Ripples of Hope, and the co-founder of 4848. Those are 2 really amazing nonprofits. I should probably add on top of that, he's also a dad of 5 kids. So we're talking to someone who has a busy life, right? So again, thanks for being here. Jeff, it's actually interesting. I knew from the start when I was planning this event that I hoped to have you, because besides you being a really positive person, you have decided to make your company's purpose statement to inspire happiness. And I think that's just outstanding. Tell me, like, what inspired you to give that company purpose statement, and how do you bring that to life on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, well, 2 things inspired that, and you can see I'm wearing one of my Dragon Army shirts, happiness. 2 things. One is I went through a process where I realized that as a person, I have been given many privileges because of who I am. You know, I'm male, white, you name it, I've got the privilege. And I didn't see that until I was about 35. And I point that out because up until that point, I had built and sold 2 businesses, but I never really, I mean, I tried to have good cultures, but I never really had a purpose for those companies. And so now I'm a big believer that business should be a force for good in this world, and that it's maybe one of the last ways that we can impact and make big change. And so Dragon Army needed to have a purpose. And I struggled though, because we're a digital agency. We build websites and mobile apps for other companies. And so I wrestled with, like, how do we have a purpose when we're really helping them fulfill their purpose? And then through a lot of deep reflection and talking to some experts, I realized that it can actually be about your company's soul and ethos a little bit more than what you actually do. So yeah, so we remind ourselves all the time that our purpose is to inspire happiness. And so this is a great year for us to reflect on that. So numbers are down, profits down, everything's down, but yet how have we done against our purpose? And we've actually had a great year in terms of inspiring happiness within our team and with our partners and with the nonprofit community.
Awesome. I'm so excited. It's so inspiring. I mean, just for me, who, you know, runs a company as well, to think about our company's purpose too. So I'm very grateful to be part also of one of Jeff's actually nonprofit organizations. So, you know, early in our conversation, I actually highlighted the benefit of volunteering our time and our talents. And you have 2 nonprofits that do so much good for the world. So in some ways, you're kind of like an expert in what it feels like when you give to others. Can you talk more about that feeling that it gives you when you give to others?
Yeah, it's interesting because in 2015, I had this idea of putting on a hackathon to build websites for nonprofits. And the idea was sort of like, I had all these great programmers and creatives and project managers and all these talented people that worked at my companies, but they were never given a chance to use those skills to do good. You know, we would work with the community food bank and really important things, but not using their skills. So I had this idea to put on an event and we got a couple hundred people together in October of 2015. And we built 48 nonprofit websites in a 48-hour period. And what happened at the end of that was people started coming up to me and saying, hey, can I go ahead and sign up for next year? And it was so shocking to me because they were exhausted and they had worked so hard for others. But I realized it was that sort of big spark they were getting because they were using their superpower to do good. And that's when I really started to reflect on, why did I even get joy from created for 48 and 48? It's because what I can do is build companies and build movements. And so that gave me joy. So working with those volunteers really helped me see that if you can find a way for someone to grab their purpose and then use it to do good and bring the skills that they've learned along the way, it can change your life entirely. So I've been on a journey to try to help people do that as much as possible ever since then.
And isn't that right? You have actually your annual hackathon coming on this weekend? Is it annual, like for different cities, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. So this is the 6th year, and our October event's always our big one. We've had 20 events since we started, and actually in about an hour, because now that we're virtual, so we pivoted. These used to all be, actually we've had them at the Tech Village with Karen. So now they're virtual. So now we actually have 10 different countries represented. So actually the kickoff, which is normally at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, is at 1 o'clock. So I don't even actually know where those countries are, but I'll be doing the kickoff as soon as I get done with this for volunteers on the other side of the globe.
That's outstanding. I love it. I love it. Well, I just have one more question for you. For someone as positive as you are, have you found it difficult to stay joyful during the pandemic? And if so, what kind of are your go-to tools, or what do you do in those moments?
I have found it difficult to stay joyful. Not only, has COVID and the pandemic and politics and social justice, all these things are compounding, but I also lost my best friend and co-founder of Dragon Army to cancer in March. So the last 6 months have been really difficult for me. And I'm not somebody that typically expresses a lot of, emotions when it comes to sadness and things. And so it's been inside, and I felt it. And I'll be honest, one of the things that helps me is watching your Instagram posts. So if people aren't following you, like, you do these daily things, and it's just, you've told me, and I've heard, either directly to me or through things like this, like take some breaths, take some time. A lot of what Camye talked about was gratitude. Those things really help me center and go, okay, take a deep breath, let it out, and then get back to it. So I find that being around people like yourself who are positive and joyful, I think you out-positive me.
Is that even a word?
And so being around you brings me joy. Just this interaction. So, but it's difficult. And I think if you don't have an outlet or a way to sort of process it, find one, because again, for me, 3 or 4 months in, I didn't know, but I started to experience dizziness and things. And I think it was because I was feeling stuff inside that I just wasn't getting out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So true. And I think on that note, everybody, if we can just inhale for a count of 4, hold it on a count of 4, and exhale for a count of 4. Are you ready? Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. And hold it. If you're on the other side, keep doing this for at least 3-4 times. Jeff, I am so excited that you joined us today. Thank you so very much. I'm sure I'll see you around. Have an awesome 4848 event this weekend. Until later. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks again for doing this, and all the speakers. It's been wonderful. So appreciate you. Bye.
All right. So I want to give you another tool. And this other tool is about, I don't know if you actually want to hear about it. Because you know why? You have heard it 100 times, and you have rolled your eyes maybe 50 of those times. But here it is. Meditation. Meditation is an amazing tool in your toolbox, and I will keep harping on it until every person in this world is just sitting their butt in a chair ever so often, close their eyes, and just focus on your breathing, or focus on the air conditioning, or focus on something other than that buzzing in your head. There are many ways to meditate, but let's talk about the science again first. So studies actually show that meditation is associated with the changes in your gray matter concentration in your brain, which impacts a slew of things. But let's just stick with what is important and relevant to us right now. It supports your ability to deal with stress. It helps your ability to choose a different perspective in life, and your ability to be more empathetic and compassionate to other people. Now, think about this. If you wouldn't worry about things as much as you do today, or you could take a more joyful perspective, think Karen and Paul, wouldn't you be happier? So I give you 2 examples here. I started meditating just about 3 years ago because my chiropractor, 72 years old, such a healthy person. And I asked him, what is like the #1 tool that you have tried? And he said it was meditation. I'm like, oh yes. So I sat cross-legged on the floor. My feet were falling asleep. I was miserable. Didn't like it at all. My head was spinning. But yet, because I did it daily, something changed. An inner calm came out. And what I noticed most and foremost is that my impulse control, the moment between you having a thought and you actually spitting that thought out, you get a break. And it's not just a break for you to consider, do I really want to say this right now? But it's also a moment to give you a chance to think about your perspective. Now, today I don't sit cross-legged anymore because, quite frankly, you don't have to do that. You could just be sitting on your most favorite couch or a chair and just sit down and have your hands in your lap and just go for it. We have a number of tools that we can share about that. But even for perspective purposes, so I grew up in Austria. And so when you go in Austria to a restaurant or a coffee shop, you would never get the bill until you ask for it. And then I came to the States and I was in the middle of my meal and the waiter would put down the check and I was so mad. I'm like, are you kicking me out? Is that what you're doing? You're kicking me out? And I realized perspective. From their perspective, it was all about efficiency, all about being there for me, that I have everything that I need whenever I'm ready for it. So perspective is everything in life. All right, again, submit your questions if you have any. We're going to get to those at just around 1 o'clock, but we have one other amazing guest that I would like to welcome to the screen, and that's Jeanne Artime. Jeanne, are you here? Yes, awesome.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing amazing today, so I don't think anything can take that away. How are you?
I'm great, and this has been awesome. I've enjoyed listening to the whole thing, so.
Awesome. Well, I think, again, Jeanne doesn't need introduction, but for the past 5 years, Jeanne Artime has been the CEO of SHRM Atlanta. As many of you know, it's the premier HR association dedicated to growing skills and knowledge of HR professionals. But I think I also want to mention that actually prior to SHRM Atlanta, Jeanne was the founding executive director of Power My Learning Greater Atlanta. And she not only established, but also really scaled this local chapter of a national nonprofit to support low-income youth. So again, so excited to be here. Jeanne, you are an icon with SHRM Atlanta, but I understand that there are changes on the horizon. Would you like to share them with our audience today?
I would. Yes, so we have just recently made public the announcement that I have resigned my post effective as of October 30th. And just to give you a little bit of background about the decision, I have been part of SHRM Atlanta and was the first ever CEO hired for the organization 5 years ago. And I can't believe it's 5 years already. And when I started, it really was looking at how to take the organization to the next level. And really, we've accomplished so much and created what was a 2020 vision back 5 years ago. And here we are in 2020, and I would say it's not quite what we envisioned in terms of what 2020 brought, but we did actually, as an organization, really achieve all the things that I personally and the organization had set out to do with the 2020 vision.
Wow.
And a lot of it had to do with transforming from what was an outsourced staffing arrangement to now full-time leaders that are part of my staff, and really changing the business model. And quite frankly, what happened was, as we accomplished the 2020 vision and delivered what was an amazing virtual conference, we had to pivot very quickly this year. Our conference was supposed to be, and this is a 2-day conference, in person, 750. It was supposed to be March 23rd and 24th. And so on March 11th, as you can imagine, I had to move it and pivot to an all virtual conference. So we delivered that in August. It was wildly successful. And as we started to plan into what does 2021 look like, that's when I took it as a moment of inflection and really looking at what we've accomplished over the last 5 years and start to thinking about the next 5 years. What might that look like? And for me personally, is this where I want to invest another 3 to 5 years? And as much as I loved the organization and loved what I did, I started to think about, is this where I want to focus my time and efforts, and quite frankly, my gifts? And with all that was going on in the world, you know, it started having me reflect on what do I want to do, and where can I give back? So.
Yeah, and I think, you know, actually 5 years is actually quite a significant amount of time, and with different talents, you know, different ideas will come in. So it's totally understandable. Can you tell me a little bit more about your personal reasons, though? You know, we're talking about joy today. So is it partly to pursue your own joy? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think exactly. I mean, you and I talked about it a little bit earlier. My path has never been a straightforward path. I started out in the for-profit world with software, did everything from product management, product marketing. As you said, ended up in the nonprofit world, helping change the educational outcomes of low-income youth through technology and with Power My Learning. And so, all truth be told, when I was in March pivoting the conference and all, quite frankly, of what SHRM Atlanta does, we're an organization that's really about creating community for HR professionals, which is largely in person, right? So the whole pivot over the last 6 months was very challenging, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety over how do we recreate this, how do we reimagine this. And my mantra as part of that was really, at some point I had to kind of take my stress level down and say, I'm not curing cancer, right? I am doing a really great thing, but at the end of the day, I'm not curing cancer, so I need to not make it feel like I am. And kind of all of that started to make me look at what was going on in the world. Racial injustice, again, if you think about the time that I spent in my nonprofit world, a lot of that was educational outcomes, which does change the trajectory of low-income youth. And in Atlanta, a lot of that are people of color, right? So all of those things started to weigh in on, am I giving back in the way that I want to give back? And with all that's happening in the world today, I might want to go back into the nonprofit world and start to focus in on some of these concerns that are out there. Do I want to go back into the full-on for-profit world? So if you know, associations are 501c6 nonprofits, but now I've kind of done a little bit of everything, and I'm not really sure. So it really, I think COVID gave me some time and a lot of stress to really start to think about, how do I want to spend my work time? And there's so many different opportunities out there and so many concerns in the world today that, you know, it just made me really personally reflect on the next 5 years of my life.
I think, honestly, Jeanne, this is so inspiring. We spend, you know, so much time in our work, and clearly very evident from this conversation, also previous conversations that we had, you so enjoyed what you did at SHRM Atlanta. I think that for everybody who's listening right now, if you feel that you have, that something is tugging at your heart, that there is a purpose out there for you that is not being fulfilled in your current role. I can honestly say the same thing about my 20-year stint at IHG. It was the best company really to work for. I traveled the world and had meaningful work, and it was great culture. but I realized that the health space and the happiness space was really where it took me to. So I encourage you to not brush that off. I totally understand that salaries and 401ks and insurance and all of the things and bonuses that come with this stuff can keep you in a certain place, but just explore that. That's all I'm putting out. So, but Jeanne, I would actually say, so are you ready to jump into something new? But what's the plan now for the next couple months?
Well, my husband refuses to allow me to say I'm retiring, and I'm definitely not going to retire. I will find another role. But one of the reasons the timing is October 30th is I wanted to give myself some time and some space to really back up and reflect. Quite frankly, from a SHRM Atlanta perspective, we delivered the conference. The team knows what Q4 is, set and ready. So I'm leaving at a time that they are well on their way to 2021 planning and finishing out the year great. But it also gave me a couple months, I call it the holidays, like I get some time to spend reflecting, some time for myself to spend with family and friends. So I really want to just take the next 2 months off and use that to refresh, kind of get rid of some of the COVID habits that I'm not proud of, that I would like to revisit again. But really just refresh and reflect and hopefully be inspired by something that says where I want to spend my career for the next 5 to 10 years. And then in January is probably when I'll, maybe not even January, but sometime after the first of the year, then start to really look in earnest and have conversations with folks. But I really do need the space that I couldn't do while I'm in role, because I'm kind of focused on making sure that SHRM Atlanta is successful, but I need the time for me. So I'm really excited, to be honest with you. I cannot wait for the next 2 months.
I am sure. I mean, like, how exciting, because, you know, when really do we, I wouldn't say get it, because we're going to take time for ourselves. So again, for everybody watching, you know, you being in a role might not mean that you can have a month of time, but you have choices. And as I think so often right now, especially in COVID world, where we already have sometimes this anxiety of, am I doing enough? My boss isn't watching. Does he know I'm doing enough? Am I producing enough? And well, now I'm already working from home, taking vacation. Should I really be taking vacation at this time? Yes. I mean, this is a really, really challenging time. And I personally, I'm looking forward. I want to take at least 2 weeks of the holidays, Christmas. I'm actually potentially even making it 3 weeks. I don't know yet. But there is so much power in those moments when you step back and have nothing on your to-do list. It's never nothing, but you know, just the big stuff. So Jeanne, I am so thoroughly excited for you about that.
And I just want to add one last thing, because
yeah.
You know, I'm talking and I'm listening to you. I would tell you, my husband does not love it that I do it this way. This is how I step down from Power My Learning, same type of reasoning. But I do encourage people to take a minute and really explore, do they have the ability to do it kind of in a way that allows them time and space? And I just happen to be an optimist, so I feel confident. It may not be in the timing I'm exactly looking for, but I am confident that I will land in a new role that will be perfect for me. So that's why I'm doing it in this way. I think a lot of people have fear around that, and I just would encourage people to just go take time for yourself and make sure it's right, and not just feel compelled to have the next job before you leave the current one that you're in.
Thank you. What important and powerful words. Yes, you know, it's easier for me to say who runs their own company. Like, I have nobody to tell what I'm doing, except of my own conscience. So wonderful. Thank you so very much, Jeanne, again, for joining. What an amazing lineup of great guests we've had that shared so much great perspective. We are about to get into Q&A, and if our guests may still be able to stick around, Jeff, I know I have at least a question for you. I know that you have to run, so if you can hang around, I'll make that the first question. So add any more questions to the Q&A. One thing though that I promised you is some t-shirts. Some t-shirts to give away, and you had to be around for that. So we're about to do that. As Katie is helping, and she's at JOYVIAL, right, and behind the scenes is doing the random shuffling, and she's not going to show the names yet. I'm just going to share a few resources for you guys. If you're looking to create more joy in your life, please know that I just started what we call the Morning Joy series on the topic of happiness. It's a YouTube series. Videos come out twice a week, literally just 2 to 3 minutes long, short snippets of what you can do for those days. And it probably will go that series through December. And then you have obviously the social media outlets as well. We have an amazing blog where either myself or the team are helping me to really bring some very uplifting content to you and informative content to you. So here's all of the information for you. You can also, if you have any questions after today, email us at info@joyvial.com or give us a call at 1-866-JOYVIAL. Now I feel like I'm back on the sales track. Okay, with that said, I'm going to stop that virtual background and we're going to ask Katie. So I'm encouraging everyone to open up their chat box because Katie is going to show in a moment the first of 3 names who's going to get a t-shirt. If your name, by the way, is listed, I'm going to send you an email on Monday, and we're going to make sure that we have your address. You get to pick your shirt, which one you want, and obviously the size that you want as well. So promise that after today there's follow-up. All right, so Katie, are you ready for the first name? I'm going to make some drum rolls. Pete Nicolosi, is he here? He must be here because otherwise he wouldn't have become. Pete, I'm so excited that you're going to get the t-shirt. If you want to really scroll up all the way to the top in the chat, you'll find the link to the t-shirts and you can just pick one. Yay for Pete, awesome. All right, second person, who's next? Drum roll coming up here. Sandy Petty. All right, Sandy, I'm excited for you to get a Joy t-shirt as well. Again, there are 6 different t-shirts you can select from. Remember that 2 of them, the one that I'm wearing, and this one are special edition ones. So they're only available until the end of October this year, and then they will disappear. And then we have a third person, which is Kimberly Parker. Awesome. I'm so excited. Kimberly, you get a t-shirt as well. Congratulations to everyone who got a t-shirt. Now we're going to switch to your questions that we're going to bring on the health coaches as well. So give me 1 second to introduce the coaches to you. Here we go. We have first Lisa. Lisa, if you can start your camera so we can see you too. Then we have joining us, Michelle Sanders. Wonderful. And we also have Patty. So 3 of our amazing health coaches that are on the health coach team. And Patty is joining us too. Wonderful. And let me see. Jeff, actually, I'm going to ask you the first question because I'm not sure if you have to run. We have a question from Ashley. Ashley, in regards to, can Jeff give some specific examples of inspiring happiness? I don't know if Jeff is still around. Might not. Okay, no worries. So Ashley, sorry, we might have to ask him offline for that. But then let me ask the health coaches. Let's see, the question is, when working with clients, what do you find is the greatest obstacle to feel joyful on a regular basis? So Lisa, I'm going to read this to you one more time. If you wouldn't mind answering that, the question is, when working with clients, what do you find is the greatest obstacle to feeling joyful on a regular basis?
I think that the consistent response to obstacle, or the main obstacle, would be overwhelm. Just the enormity of what people are experiencing, and what we do is work to reduce that overwhelm, to shrink it, and bring people back into just the power of the present moment, which so many people referenced, you know, coming back to gratitude or coming back to breath. There's so many different tools to do that, but recognizing when we're starting to tip into overwhelm, I think, is one of the most important, or one of the most common, I guess, obstacles that people are facing, is that there's just so much right now.
Yeah, for sure. Oops. My mic is on. All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. Really appreciate it. We actually have a question from someone who has had, from what I read here, he's been meditating for a month, had a perfect moment today, felt like bliss never before, outstanding. But society does not accept me because my head is fast as hell, because I might be, and I don't know what HSP is. Is this the Austrian translation? Anyway, lots of trauma too. What should I do? Do I get accepted for what I am, who I am, and can only show up like 1%? And then thank you for an amazing meeting. Just because I managed to talk about meditation before, if you're right, I'll take this one. In my mind, show up is who you are. It's so much easier said than done, but actually, Patty, if I put you on the spot here for a moment, if someone comes to you and who doesn't feel like they can be truly who they are, how do you work through that with them?
Question, Hanni. And to mention to the fella, his question, you know, I love therapy, and I think if you have trauma, then and I also like the idea of mindfulness and practicing mindfulness along with meditation. And what was your question? Sorry, Hanni.
Well, no, just how would you work with a person who says, I'm not really sure I can show up the way I am?
Yes. Well, I'm big on the Enneagram, and that's personality typing. Help them, unless they already know, determine their Enneagram type. And I believe that self-awareness is where to start when I work with anybody. Becoming more self-aware.
Yes, thank you. Lisa, do you want to add to this?
I do. I just want to encourage, we all as humans have a need to bear witness and also to be witnessed. And the idea of somebody not feeling like they can be who they are, I want to encourage creating space for that experience of being who we are. The more time that we're able to get clear on identifying what that looks like, who we are as a healthy person, the more time we can live congruent to that picture, the more that we are able to sort of be empowered to have that experience, to be that. And the world doesn't need us to be something that we're not. The world needs us to be who we are. And so I just want to offer encouragement of finding a safe space to be witnessed as who you are.
Thank you. I'm going to just share whoever the person is actually helped also. HSP is hypersensibility person, which I appreciate that. I really do. And I think we all need to acknowledge of who we are and how we show up in life and what our challenges are and what our strengths are, and we just own them. So I really appreciate the question. Thank you so much. All right, Michelle, I want to ask that for you. It comes from Julia. In what ways have you stayed joyful during this pandemic? So I'm going to read it again. Michelle, if you wouldn't mind taking that. In what ways have you stayed joyful during this pandemic yourself? If you wouldn't mind unmuting, just go. All good. We're not going anywhere. Actually, I think I can unmute you. There we go. Does that work? Ask to be unmuted. Here we go. Yes, we can. Awesome.
I can't hear you. Oh, okay. So thank you so much for this amazing day. All the speakers, I've really loved hearing from everyone. So for us, we actually had quite a few house projects that we had not been doing around here for the last 4 or 5 years. So my husband and I decided early on at the pandemic that we would complete some of these house projects that were lingering. So that was one of the first ways I think, we felt joy, was actually seeing some of these come to fruition. And then the second thing that I did was I started really going outside more and spending more time in nature and connecting in that way. And it was really quite amazing. I actually wrote a blog about it that's on our website. And I learned so much about myself and had great self-awareness in just being able to go outside and experience some peace and calm, and just to kind of be with that in the moment where, you know, everything was a timeout, and being able to just kind of reconnect. And then the third thing that was actually has been very, very helpful is I started working with a coach, because coaches need coaches too. And so over the past 4 months, I've been connecting and having regular sessions, and it's been quite helpful because we want to be joyful, but yet we all have certain things that trigger us. And sometimes we don't know why. We want to stay joyful. We want to be happy all the time, but someone or something may trigger us and we just don't understand. So working with a coach really helps us create that awareness about why that may be happening. And typically it's something from childhood that's left over, and it's one of those limiting beliefs or subconscious beliefs. So we as coaches help others to kind of, you know, break down and the barriers and get through and eliminate those beliefs, but we need that help too, to sort of level ourselves up. So that's what I would say. Thank you so much.
I love that. Yeah, what a great comment, and it's so true. I am in a very fortunate position to be surrounded by amazing coaches and get to have one-on-one walks and calls, literally with everyone on the team. So yeah, thanks so very much, Michelle. Let's see. I think Patty, I want to ask you that. The question is, what tools are in your toolbox to stay joyful in your life? So again, Patty, I'm going to repeat this one more time. What tools are in your toolbox to stay joyful?
Well, I love tools. I think tools are phenomenal. And for me, walking and journaling, and Lisa mentioned community. So I think I have so many tools, but I love that I have them and I access them. And the newest tool is practicing more mindfulness. So thank you.
I want to ask a follow-up question, because, you know, it's one thing to have tools. And I think a lot of, you know, when I talk to people is they have the tools. Do you wait until you're not happy to use the tools? Is this a daily thing? Like when and how do you use them?
Right. That's a great question. I think for myself, I have to be proactive. I have to be, I need to stay ahead of the curve, and I practice these tools. And then when I'm triggered or have a bad day, or they're there and I've used them, and it definitely helps.
Awesome. All right. We have another 2 more minutes. So at least I'm going to ask you another question. One of the questions that came through said, can you offer an example of how you helped a client kind of reclaim his or her joy?
Yeah, just this week, there was feedback from a client. One of the things, actually 2 clients recently, we pivoted a worry, a concern, a pressure that they were feeling, and flipped it to curiosity and wonder. One of my clients had a situation where there was a fear of abandonment, and I just was curious if that person wouldn't reject you or abandon you if you said no, like you drew a healthy boundary. And with reflection, and so many of the speakers have used that word, and I think it's so powerful, and that's a tool that I would say is critically important for my personal well-being. But upon reflection, she was able to go, oh my gosh, that person's not going to abandon me. Like, that's an old belief, like Michelle had referenced. Just that recognition of just holding up a posture of curiosity and wonder, and looking at things, as Hanni, you referenced several times, perspective. It always comes back to perspective on how we're looking at something. So what lens we look through. And then another client was worried about something completely different, a completely different scenario, completely different personality. And the email I got was just massive gratitude for, I pulled out that tool, I used it this evening when I was, caught myself getting worked up and worried. Instead, I got curious about how it might unfold, and it completely changed my thought patterns, my thought process. And I'll again affirm your words earlier about, you know, the brain chemistry and how we have neural pathways that we can rewire, and we can begin to look at things through a different lens. And it does take practice, but having people that are part of your team, you know, that can then help guide you and hold you there is super important.
Awesome. Ladies, I really appreciate you. We are at 1:15. Time flies by so very, very quickly. I thank all of our guests for really sharing their perspective. I want to thank our health coaches that were able to join today. Also behind the scenes, there is Katie and Julia that have helped a lot. So I really want to thank all of you for being in my life and for allowing me to put this kind of event together, even leading up those last few days. If you have any more questions, you can always reach us at info@joyvial.com. If you want to hang around, I'm going to play one more song and I'm going to check the chat and chat with you. But no worries, if you got to run because the world is calling, let the world call. I personally, after this, will take the afternoon off and don't do any work anymore. But again, I don't have a boss to report to. So on that note, thank you for joining, and we'll definitely see you next year as we do this for sure on the first Friday of October again.
Everyone needs sunshine, everyone needs rain, everyone is carrying around some kind of pain. I see who you are, you're just like me. I see you're searching for a purpose, guided by a dream. I see who you are, I'm just like you. I get lost sometimes and I forget what I came here to do. I keep on trying, when it gets frightening. Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good. Look for the good. Look for the good in everyone. Everyone is nature, everyone is God, everyone is love and light and vibration. Look for the good, look for the good. Everyone gets mad sometimes and maybe they should. Look for the good, look for the good. Yeah, look out for all the heroes in your neighborhood. Look for the good. Look for the good. Life sure would be sweeter if everybody would. Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. Look for the good in everything. Look for the good. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good. Look for the good. Look for the good in everyone.
On that note, farewell to everyone. Thank you to everyone. Until next year, latest for Joy Day, but hopefully much sooner for anything else in between. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.